The Manage Users page is found by clicking on the Payroll Settings tab, which can be accessed here or here. This page allows you to create a full or restricted user that has access to the business file, as well as manage employee groups and additional 2FA settings. We'll take a look at the Manage Users tab first. From here, you're able to set up the following types of user. Full access, which gives the user administrator access to all areas and functions of payroll, including the ability to authorize STP pay event lodgements. The second type of user is a restricted access user. This is commonly given to managers. Here you can select what specific areas you want the user to access and restrict by employee group and/or location. In order to add a new user, click the Add button on the right of the page. You'll be required to complete all of the following: the user's email address and the user's full name. If full access is selected, the new user will receive 2 separate emails with login details and instructions on creating a password and logging into payroll. If the user that you are adding already has access to another business, they won't get an email. Rather, they will just need to use their current login details to access the new business. If restricted access is selected, further settings will appear for you to complete. I'm going to go ahead and add a restricted user in order to show you the different types of access. Okay, so here you'll see 5 different tabs. You can choose to activate one or all 5 of the different types of access. We have employee access, location access, reporting access, payroll access, and clock me in access. If we take a look at employee access first, you'll need to select a group of employees that the manager can access. To create an employee group from this section, click the Create option here. From there, enter a name for the employee group and complete the criteria required that make up this group. You can include more than one criteria by clicking on Add another criteria here, and then choose whether the multiple criteria must match all or any of the criteria selected. If you click on the drop-down box for the criteria here, you'll notice a few different parameters that you can choose from. This drop-down box here allows you to select is one of or is not one of. For example, you might like to create an employee group where it must match all criteria and the primary location must be one of kitchen. As you can see, there's 0 employees matching that description. If we add a different location, it will change to show you that there's 4 matching employees at that location. So therefore, if I was going to create an employee group consisting of employees that have this location here, we'll get rid of this one, that has this location here as their primary location, the employee group would consist of 4 employees. So we're going to assign an employee group to this manager. We're going to choose admin. You can select multiple employee groups that the manager has access to by clicking the Add another group. These options here are employee groups that have already been added to the business. Once you have assigned the user to an employee group, you are then able to set the permissions for the user. These permissions will allow the user to perform the following tasks only for employees they have access to according to their relevant employee group. Once you've selected the options that you need, simply click the Save button. If we take a look at the Location tab now, the limitation with employee groups is that it only defines the employees that a manager can see. It doesn't restrict location-specific data that a manager has access to. This is particularly highlighted when it comes to rostering and timesheets. To provide greater flexibility in setting user permissions for managers, location access is really handy. The user permissions afforded to employee group access are also provided to location access. The first field looks at the criteria and you can select from location or any sub-location. So we're going to grant access to locations and you'll see here the criteria. We can select location or any sub-location. The sub-location is referring to when a location has been added underneath another one, and this is done via the payroll settings locations page. You can then click into this next field here and select the location. Each line here represents a sub-location, i.e. a location that has been added underneath an existing one. By setting location access, the user is then able to view and create timesheets, if given permission, relating to that location, even if the primary location of the employee is different. This is what differentiates it from employee access, as when a location is used as a condition with employee access, it will give the user access to employees with the specified location as their default location, that is, the one set up on their employee file, Pay Run Defaults page. This type of user permission setup makes it easier for managers to focus on the locations they are responsible for, as that's the only data they're able to view. We'll take a look at the Reporting tab now. When a user has reporting access, they will be able to access reporting functions in the payroll account, but they won't be able to access any other functions. Additionally, if the restricted user also has either employee group and/or location access, you can restrict the reports so they will honour the restrictions in place for the employee group and/or location. When a user generates a report, only the employees they have access to, according to their employee group or location access, will populate in the reports. You can choose to give a user access to all reports or just specific reports. No reports is set by default. We have all reports. In this scenario, the user will have access to all reports, but may still have restrictions applied based on employee group or location settings, if applicable. Report packs. You'll need to have report packs set up first for this to apply. You can do this via the Reports Report Packs page. For context with this one, giving a user access to report packs is in reference to their ability to download the report packs. This is because when a user is setting up a report pack on the reports page, there's an option that allows them to request that recipients must log in to download the report pack. So if that setting has been enabled, restricted users must be given report pack access in order to do that. The last option is the following reports. By selecting this option, you're able to select from a list of specific reports that you would like to give the user access to. These reports again can be restricted based on employee group or location access. You can also configure the restrictions for reporting. You'll notice the setting here, no restriction on reporting data. This will either restrict or not restrict reporting data based on the employee or location settings applied. This option will only appear if the user also has either employee group and/or location access. So you leave it unticked if the user has, say, employee group access, such as this one. If I don't want the reports to be restricted based on their employee group access, I'll leave that unticked. A few reports will not apply data restrictions, even if that is ticked. These include the journal report, payment file report, and the employee satisfaction report. The next tab here is in regards to pay run approval, and this provides the user with authorization to approve STP pay events. This permission is not restricted by employee groups or locations. However, an STP pay event approver will only be authorized to approve a pay event once a full access user has specifically assigned them. The last tab, Clock Me In. This provides the user with access to one, some, or all kiosks in the business. This permission is only relevant to businesses that use the time and attendance feature. Now you can select from all kiosks, and within that, the ability to add an employee from kiosk. This gives a user access to the quick add employee functionality in the kiosk. If you are giving the restricted user access to multiple kiosks, select the following kiosks option and then tick each of the relevant kiosks you need to grant access to. You can also choose to tick the add employee from kiosk box here as well. If the box is already ticked against a kiosk, such as this means that when the kiosk was set up, the option to make this kiosk available to all restricted users with Clock Me In access was enabled. It's worth noting that restricted users will not be given the same permissions as full access users in regards to Clock Me In. As a minimum, and regardless of the user's employee group or location permission in payroll, restricted users will be able to log in and out of Clock Me In using their payroll login details. They can enter and exit admin mode, clock in and out on behalf of an employee. They can start and end break on behalf of an employee, and they can enter notes against clocking activities and/or timesheets. If the restricted access user also has employee group and/or location access, these permissions will still be honoured once the restricted user is granted access to Clock Me In. Restricted access users will not have access to be able to add or edit a kiosk. I hope this video on adding a restricted user has been helpful.